Good afternoon. It says I'm live. Must be true. I'm Tim Carter, and this is Ask the Builder, March 4th, 2022. Great to be here with you. And was listening to a little bit of Penguin Street Cafe before I went live. What a great band from years ago. Must have been 40 years ago. I think the son of the founder still runs it. But some very quirky music. Most of it puts you in a really good mood. So can't go wrong listening to the Penguin Street Cafe. I've got a link for you right there. You can listen to to one of the songs. Who knew that the Hawaiian word ukulele means dancing flea? I didn't know that. Oh my gosh. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about building limestone walls and arches. But today is also, as really every day, it's open question day. It's like open mic. In other words, whatever question you might have about your home, just feel free to ask it. I only do these live streams to be here to help you. In other words, you know, I'm here to save you time and money. I saved Holt yesterday a ton of money, a big ton of money, let me tell you, and big time. So, and he was kind enough to leave a tip at the Tim's tip jar. Thanks very much, Holt, if you're here now. Hello, Louise. Yeah, isn't that limestone wall amazing? There's a link right at the top. Hello, Josh. Oh, it's a shame you're not going to be able to be here. I was going to, well, while you're here, real quickly, Josh was kind enough to fill out a form. I've got a link to it right there about cool ideas in her house. And Josh filled it out, sharing an idea. He's got about some drawers, toe kick drawers in his kitchen island. And he's going to be a big star in my next book. He sent me some fantastic photos. And what a great way to make use of otherwise wasted space in almost all kitchen cabinets. There's that 4 or 5 inch void underneath the cabinets. And Josh made use of it. Pretty talented craftsman. You should see what he built. Anyway, I'm going to go get the link to the limestone column and arch. I want to put that in again. Really important. It's really important that you see photos here. You get to see my grandfather. How cool is that? My grandfather, good guy. And I never got to meet him. He got sent back up to heaven about, I don't know, 13, 14 years before I was born. And, but boy, he was a talented guy. Holy tomato. Go to that link right there that I just put in and look at the woman in the flapper dress and the flapper hat, you know, from the 1930s. It's just crazy, you know, crazy. And let's talk about limestone right now. Here's the deal when you build with the limestone, or really almost any stone. The first thing you need to realize is that, first of all, they're heavy as can be. I mean, rock, a cubic foot of most rocks, you know, like granite, limestone, any really dense rock weighs about 150 pounds a cubic foot. All right. That is, that's heavy. So it doesn't take a big rock to be where you really can't handle it. Because, I mean, most people would struggle to lift up a rock that's 100 pounds. I mean, even 70 pounds. You have to be strong. You have to use leverage. You have to figure out ways to maybe have a helper put you things in place. Here's the next thing you need to know. If you've ever laid concrete block, if Steve was here, he'd call them breeze block. That's what they call them in the UK. We call them concrete block here in the United States. Or if you have ever laid brick, regular brick, just a regular brick, it's a completely different method. And the reason why is the mortar mix that you use for brick and concrete block is about the consistency of applesauce. And the reason why is it's a little sloppier, and the brick and the concrete block, they have what's called, they have a characteristic called suction. And it means that they're kind of, even though they're dense, they're a lot like a sponge. And so they will fairly quickly suck the water out of that applesauce consistency mortar so that the mortar gets pretty stiff, which then allows you to stack another block, another layer or course of block or brick on top of the one you just laid. Well, guess what? Rock doesn't have any suction. I mean, most rock. Maybe you would get some from sandstone, but you are not going to get any suction from granite or limestone. Well, you might get it from an oolitic limestone, but the coarse limestone, fossiliferous limestone, forget it. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It just, they're like glass. I mean, there's just no suction. What that means is that the mortar that you use to lay concrete, I'm sorry, to lay stone has got to be not as wet, maybe more like mashed potatoes. If you use applesauce consistency mortar, that's very common. You might have seen a lot of videos where you see bricklayer, the type of mortar that bricklayers are using. What'll happen is you'll set the stone and you'll get it right where you want it. But if you then go to lay another stone on top of it, that because the mortar has not set, it's still applesauce-like, the stone below will move, it'll drop down, you'll mess everything up. So you have to have a really stiff mortar. But that means that you have to make sure that the stones are very clean. They have to be really clean and dust-free when you set them, so that the crystals of Portland cement and lime in the mortar can grab onto that stone. Really important that they're clean and dust-free. Hello, Rocco. One of the tricks that you can use, and it's in the column that I linked to up there, this is a lot more work, and most people would never do this. But if you're doing a do-it-yourself wall where you really want it to last a long time, you can mix up some cement paint, which is just a mixture of Portland cement and clear water, and you mix it to the consistency of latex paint, and you just have an old paintbrush, and before you lay a stone on top of another stone, you've put the mortar down, you've got the mortar, and you have to realize it's really hard to learn how to put the right amount of mortar down, because when you lay concrete block or brick, they'll lay the brick or block in place and they'll push it down, or they'll tap it with a hammer or their trowel to bring it down to the line. You're not going to do that when you're laying stone. That mortar is so stiff, you are not going to get the mortar to move or to ooze out. It won't happen. When you go to lay a stone on top of the mortar, the mashed potato mortar is what I call it, you could paint the underside of the stone with a little bit of the cement paint, just a very light coat, and then immediately put it down into the mortar, and you'll get a much better bond between the mortar and the stone. And then you would do the exact same thing when you're getting ready to lay the next course. In other words, right before you get ready to put some mortar on the stone, you would take the brush and you'd brush a little bit of the cement paint on top of the stone, immediately cover it with the mortar, and then immediately put your next stone down. You do that. If you take that time to do that, I'm telling you right now that that limestone wall, if you've done everything else right, got a nice footing in, I don't know, it might last 300, 400, 500 years, maybe 1,000 years. That little bit of cement paint, it'll just bond that mortar so well. You just can't believe it. Oh, it was a great idea, Josh. It was a great idea. You're the only one who came up with that idea. I had a lot of repeat ideas from other people about things. It's going to turn out to be a great little book. I think my biggest challenge is going to be coming up with enough photographs to really kind of illustrate some of the things. That's why I asked you if you had photos, and you were kind enough to let me use them. Thanks very much. If you have any questions about anything about your home, now's the time to ask them. Don't be bashful. It doesn't matter what the problem is that you have. It could be plumbing, roofing, siding. It really doesn't matter. I don't care what you ask. I'll do my best to answer it. Happy to help you. That's why I'm here. Now, arches. When you go to build a limestone arch, MJ, shush. I don't know what that means. All right, you want me to be quiet? When you go to build a limestone arch, or really any arch, um, Lewis, we're not going to talk politics here, not today. It's really not that. Talking politics on my live stream, it just doesn't move the ball down the field. I mean, our parents told us when we were growing up, don't talk politics or religion with people. There's a reason for that. You're not going to convince me, and I'm not going to convince you. That's why it doesn't do any good. The thing about building arches is really pretty simple. What you need to realize, though, is that arches, like an arch, it naturally wants to push out at the ends. It's it's curved, and it wants to kick. Like if here's where the walls are that are supporting the arch wants to push the walls out like that. Gravity wants to push that out. That means that these two walls that the arch is sitting on have to be substantial. And typically, what stands the test of time, for example, and you can see it in the photo on that page, on this page, I'll type it in again. Yeah. If you look at the top photo on this page, you'll notice that the walkway, the widthway of that arch is you'll notice that I'm sorry, I was doing something. You'll notice that the arch is about 3 feet wide, and that the wall on either side of the arch is about 3 feet wide. And that particular structure, that's the top photo in that on that column, probably been there about 100 years. That tells you that whatever the width of the opening is, if you then make the wall on that side of the opening that big, probably going to be in good shape. You're probably going to be okay. You can also get some inspiration about arches and how big the wall has to be to support the arch from the Roman aqueducts. That they were experts at it, and there are aqueducts over in Italy that have been up for, I don't know, hundreds, over 1,000 years, maybe almost 2,000 years, that have not fallen down. So look at the Roman aqueducts for inspiration on that arch and how to support the arches. All right. So hello, Lewis. How you doing? So if you have any questions about building limestone walls, how to do the arches, how to make the form for the arch, we always just use plywood. You make sure that the support for the form is really substantial, because you don't want that form to move while you're building the arch. I mean, obviously, because everything will come crashing down. It's really important to put a keystone in to lock those arch stones in place. And once you have the stones in place, the mortar in place, you can remove the form. I mean, I'd probably wait a day. If you go to that page where I just pasted in the link, you'll see there's down at the bottom of the column. It's over in Western New Hampshire on the way to Keene. There's quite a few of them around, but this one happens to be really close to the roadway. There are these bridges that were built maybe 170 years ago. These granite arch bridges built with no mortar. They're just tight-fitting stone. So you can build an arch and it doesn't have to have any mortar. Let's see what Holt has to say. Holt says, do you have an opinion on self-leveling a basement floor when finishing a basement? It seems like basement floors are inherently sloping. Yeah, the self-leveling compounds work really well. They work really well. That's all I can tell you. I have no trouble with them. Just they can be a little tricky. They're really, watch some videos on YouTube about how to use them. And if the manufacturer has a video, for example, USG, they make a pretty good self-leveling compound. If USG happens to have an installation video, boy, watch it for sure. The last time I checked, they're very sensitive to the amount of water you use when you mix it. You have to be really careful. And you just have to follow the directions and stay within their specifications and tolerances. Should be in really good shape. But make sure that whatever you're putting on top of the self-leveling compound, that it's an allowable substrate, if that makes any sense. In other words, check with your, you said you're going to plan to install LVP over the flat, but just make sure that the LVP says it's okay to be installed on top of self-leveling compound. Simple as that. Lewis lives in a brick house in England. Good. You guys have a lot of brick houses in England. Steve lives in the UK. He's a regular here. He hasn't been around much this week at all. And he's always in awe of how we here in the United States use so much lumber. I mean, we wood frame everything. And as I've told Steve in the past, the reason we do here is it's cheaper, it's faster, and we have almost an unlimited supply of lumber in the United States as well as Canada, our northern neighbor. And of course, Canada is part of your Commonwealth, I believe, still. And it's just, and then, we'll put brick on the outside of our homes, but the brick is not structural like over in the UK. You're welcome, Holt. No problem. It's good stuff, the self-leveling compound. I can tell you this, before I would commit myself to using it in a big wide area in a basement, I can tell you right now, Commander, I would absolutely do a small test pour somewhere. I would make a tiny little out of level form out of a half a sheet of plywood or something, coat it with urethane so it doesn't have too much suction, whatever. Just, I would experiment with it because you only get one chance with it. I mean, that's what you need to understand. One chance. Can't mess it up. Yes, Lewis, that is a model of a FA-18 Tomcat that I flew in one. I flew in one for about an hour with the number 7 Blue Angels pilot. I only passed out maybe 5 times. Kicked my ass. There's a story about that. Here, I'll share the story with you. I can pull it up here. It was a heck of a day. I got severely dehydrated, and I was really in bad shape, is all I can tell you. I thought it was a smart idea not to drink much or eat much before I did the flight because I didn't want to puke in the plane, and that was a huge mistake. So I didn't really enjoy the flight too much. It was a bad mistake. I think the Navy could have done a better job of preparing the people that do these ride-alongs. But Brendan, I don't know what to do about you, buddy. See you, Josh. Have a great weekend, buddy. Anyway, a lot of fun to be in that plane. There was an in cockpit video. I've got it here in the office. I've never uploaded it. The modern ones are all in color. Mine was in black and white. But they're pretty amazing airplanes, I can tell you that. We did a high performance climb, and when you do that, the G-force is pretty strong. I couldn't raise my arms up. There was so much G-forces in that high performance climb. I tried to raise my arm up off the armrest. Couldn't do it. Crazy. Anyway, any other questions you have about your house, you know what to do. Put them in the chat. Happy to help you. And doesn't matter what it is. I helped a buddy of mine do a roof, solve a roofing problem, leak at his home down in Tyler, Texas. And he, it was really pretty easy. He had a leak in one of the field shingles. And I just told him, all you got to do is slide a piece of metal up underneath that tab and your problems go away. It's that simple. Really, really simple. A lot of people don't realize how easy it is to fix certain roof leaks. Those are the easiest ones of all to fix. And, typically, though, most roof leaks happen around flashings. Flashings can be pretty baffling for the average person. Brendan, it is not Bob the Builder. I got bad news for you, buddy. I'm not, I just don't think you're adding anything to the conversation. So anyway, if you got any other questions, happy to answer them. And what did I want to tell you? Tomorrow is the big vote here in the HOA. We'll see what happens. I dropped the atom bomb yesterday, and I got a really interesting email from one of my newer neighbors, and I'm going to meet him for the first time probably tomorrow afternoon. He's in the same camp I am. We just need to have a total of 21 people who think like we do, and we'll get that amendment defeated. But it was just, we'll see what happens. It's going to be a really interesting vote tomorrow. I can tell you that. If you have any questions about anything, happy to answer them. Just ask anything. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of a laid back Friday. I was up really early today. I mean, like way too early. I was up at 4:00, and I was here in the office by 5. And by 10:00, I had gotten so much work done. I was crazy. I got a lot of stuff done. Okay, Lewis, thanks for stopping by, buddy. Good luck with that brick home over there in the UK, buddy. Good luck. I like getting up early, but I don't know about getting up that early. Pretty early. One of the things that I noticed, it was kind of interesting. If you've ever seen any stop, time lapse photography of the stars, you'll notice that when the photographer, leaves the not the aperture, but leaves the shutter open, and the stars, as they move, they create lines or streaks in the photograph. And so I'm going to ask you just to see if you can maybe remember, or maybe you don't. It just might be a guess. So the constellations and all the stars, they rotate around the North Pole, Polaris, the North Star, Polaris. So which direction do you think the stars rotate, clockwise or counterclockwise, here in the Northern Hemisphere? Might be the same in the Southern Hemisphere. I don't know. Never been there. But which direction do you think the stars rotate around Polaris? Clockwise or counterclockwise? Just kind of a quick, fun little quiz. We'll see what happens. But I was laying in bed before I got out, and I was watching, I forget which planet it was. Might have been Pluto. I don't know. Maybe it was Uranus. Uranus was rising in the east, and I was watching it kind of go up in the sky. Pretty cool. And so the planets are just so bright. I got to look through a telescope about 4 years ago when I was at the New England Forest Rally. One of my radio buddies, he likes, he's an amateur astronomer. He bought one of those telescopes. I don't know if it was a really great one. Doesn't matter, but it was good enough that he zoomed in on Jupiter while we were at the campground, and I had never really looked through a telescope like that before. And I could see like 3 or 4 of the moons circling Jupiter. It was crazy. It was amazing. So if you've never had that experience, for example, probably where you live, there might be an astronomy club. And every now and then they have, they get together on nights. They're open to the public. They've got their telescopes set up. I highly recommend to go to one of those events if you've never done it before. It's really interesting. Really interesting. Any questions you have about your home, just put them in the chat. Happy to help you. If you don't have a YouTube account, you're unable to chat. You can just watch. If you have a YouTube account, you're able to chat, and I'm happy to help you. Go ahead and do it. Just type in any question. I don't care what it is. Maybe you've got a question about waterproofing. Who knows? Maybe you have a question about anti-scald faucets. I don't care. It doesn't really matter. Oh my gosh. Holt's question was really interesting about the self-leveling floor compounds. Very popular in like multifamily housing, where they have to get the floors really in the same plane. Where the flooring material they put down has got to be perfect. The self-leveling floor compounds, really, really great material to use. I can tell you that right now. Fantastic material. And they're easy to put in. There's some great videos on YouTube showing how to install them in a bigger area. And I would highly recommend you watch those and see how those guys do it. It's really, really amazing. I just don't have a whole lot of experience with it because we built our floors really level. I didn't need to make up for any mistakes. But anyway, all right. All right. Once again, if you got any questions, put them in the chat. That's what I'm here for. Happy to answer them. If we don't get many questions, I'm probably going to bail out of here early. I've had a long day already. I've been at it for almost 12 hours. So, but I'm happy to stay here long enough to answer a question of yours or two. Happy to do it. But we shall see. All right. Not seeing any questions. I don't know. The chat may be delayed. A few days ago, the chat was delayed a while. I mean, it was delayed by maybe 2-3 minutes. It was actually kind of surprising. But I don't think it's delayed today. Anyway, I'm going to go. No questions. I hope you enjoyed the limestone wall and arch. Make sure you go to those columns. Oh, Holt's got one real fast. Good. You lucked out, Holt. I was just about ready to go. With the advent of more and more electric cars, I practically ran a 60-gauge wire to the garage before drawing the ceiling. I have a 100-amp panel. I assume this is too small. No, okay. I got news for you, just so you know. I think, you didn't have to do any of that. You didn't have to do that. Because if most of the electric cars that are coming out are like my daughter's brand new Volvo XC90, they bought this car maybe 5 months ago. Well, they didn't buy it. They leased it. My son-in-law, pretty smart guy. There's so much technology in it. He didn't want to take a chance. So they just leased it. But their car, to plug it in, it's a hybrid. Now maybe that because it's a hybrid, it's got a smaller battery. I don't know. I'm not an expert on these electric cars. They just plug it into a 110-volt regular outlet in the garage. And I think the thinking is I think where this whole direction is going is that the people, the electric car people are thinking the car does not always need to have a quick charge. Like if you're out on the road and you have to really get a big charge so you can go another 200 miles. They feel that if you pull in the garage and the car's going to be there 10 hours, while you eat dinner and relax and go to sleep, that it can take 10 hours to do a slower charge at 110 volts. So I think that's the trend of where these cars are going, that they can do both a fast charge and a slow charge. I think, but I'm not an expert. Well, you can leave the 100-amp panel. If you got a 100-amp panel, if you got 100 amps coming into the panel, yeah, it just gives you all kinds of flexibility as to what type of breakers and what you're going to do. I just think that, if you go back 3 years ago, they were trying to push on everybody these big giant charging panels in the garages. And I think there was some pushback. I also think the engineers of the cars rethought it and thought, well, this is stupid. Most cars, not all, most cars sit in the garage for 10 hours. And that's plenty of time to charge using 110 volts. That's what I think. I can tell you that a neighbor of mine is an expert in this field. And I had a conversation with him last summer, and he said that in the next 10 years here in America, it's going to be very, very hard to buy a car or a light truck with a gasoline engine. So it's coming. And but he said the problem is, he said, if you're a road tripper like I am, like I like to take road trips, he says you better make sure, if you like to do that, he said, you better buy a hybrid car that's got a nice gasoline engine in it before it's hard to get them, because he said if you have an all electric car, you're going to find it's really frustrating to try to travel long distances. And I know this. Last summer, I'm up in Maine, and I'm the chief of communications for the New England Forest Rally, and I go to this one gas station to fill up my truck, and I had a little extra time, and I noticed some people were over at it. There were two like Tesla charging stations, and these people were over there with a Tesla charging up their car, and I just kind of wandered over and talked to them and started up a conversation. Very nice people, and they were going to be there for the next 45 minutes. I could never do that. Not doing that. Not doing that. And then what would have happened if there would have been 4 cars there? See, that's the problem. What happens if 2 charging stations, 4 cars, the other 2 people just waiting? What happens if it's 100 degrees out and there's 5 cars waiting and your car runs out of all electricity? Do you push it over to the charging station? I mean, I don't know that they've got this really well thought out. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Holt says, in general, can panels be swapped, upgraded? Yes, they can be, but you would never put a 200 amp panel with only 100 amp feeding it. So, I mean, typically what will happen is, the panels are rated. The bus bars in the panel are all going to take 200 amps. I mean, you may buy, for example, down in my basement, I've got a smaller panel that only has 16 maybe 12, maybe just 12. It's either got 12 or 16 knockouts, and it's for my standby generator. The standby generator is only 17 kW. All right, so I forget what size wire's feeding it, 6 or 8, number 6, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's just that, I can't imagine you having, in other words, if you take a 40 circuit panel and you just put feeding into it like a number 6 wire, and you load up that whole panel with circuit breakers, and then you start using a lot of things at once, you're going to burn up that feeder wire. You're going to burn it up because you're going to overheat it because too many amps are going through that wire. So you have to match the wire to the panel. But understand that even the smaller panels, the bus bars are built to take a lot of amps. All right. So anyway, so I hope that helps. Yes, I'll take my gas guzzling. I'm looking right at it. My big F-250 Ford Super Duty 4x4. I'm lucky to get, in the city, I'm lucky to get 13 miles a gallon here in New Hampshire. On the road, if you baby it, you can maybe get 15 miles to the gallon, So anyway, it's you just have to match the draw. In other words, you can add up your total draw in your panel, and then that's how you match up your feeder line to that panel. It's, none of it's really too hard, but anyway, that's exactly right. Like I just said, if you imagine, I'm giving you the worst example, a 40 circuit panel. All right. I've got 2 of them in my basement. I've got a total of like 80 circuit breakers in my house. If I put that 40 circuit panel in and I feed it with just like a number 6 wire, and I put 40 circuit breakers in and I run a bunch of stuff, like example, if I was silly enough to in that panel have a 30 amp breaker for a electric water heater, and a 30 amp breaker for a clothes dryer, and a 50 amp breaker for a double oven. And then I decided to dry some clothes and run some hot water and cook a turkey. I'm probably going to set the house on fire because the feeder wire is going to get so hot, it's going to burn up. That's why a 200 amp wire, a 200 amp panel is fed with 4-aught aluminum or 4-aught copper. All right. You can watch tons of videos on YouTube about this. I mean, there's I'm sure there's electricians and the National Electric Code, the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA has probably got some videos explaining all this to you. So go watch those videos. You're welcome. All right. This is the last call for questions. Last call. If you don't have one, I'm going to give you about 60 seconds. If you don't have one, I am going to get out of here. Probably just kind of kick back and relax for the rest of the day. I been at it 12 hours almost. Crazy. Worked hard today. Got a lot of stuff done. But all right, Rocco, see you, buddy. Have a great weekend. Have a great night. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. All right. I don't think we're going to get more questions. I'll be back next week if everything goes all right. I anticipate being here. But you never know what may happen. Rare chance, rare possibility I could get abducted. I hope not. Okay, I'm Tim Carter. You've been watching Ask the Builder. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for being here. And I should be here next week. Make sure, if you haven't done it, subscribe to my free newsletter. There's lots of really great tips that I share there that I don't share here. Oh, yeah, thanks, Holt. Yeah. Don't even get me started on the illness, man. Don't even get me started. Oh, my gosh. There's like 150 million of us, that survived, You don't hear anybody talking about it. That tells you all you need to know. It's never been about health. It was all that COVID was about, just was to be able to get a mail order president. That's all it was about. All right. I violated my own rule. I'm out of here. I'm Tim Carter. Ask the Builder. I'll be here next week.